Chelsea warned over Lukaku, Kane misses training, Bruce wants big names, Real want Odegaard buyback clause, and a transfer roundup all coming up in the next few minutes, as I'm your host Matt Froelich, you are the OneFootballers, and this is the Daily News. So first up, and Inter Milan have warned Chelsea that signing Romelu Lukaku is going to cost them a lot of money. I'm pretty sure Chelsea knew that already, but anyway, when it comes to actual figures, apparently Inter want over 100 million euros for the Belgian striker. Of course, when it comes to a list of importance, of how important players are to Inter Milan, Romelu Lukaku is right up there, if not number one. I spoke yesterday about Lautaro Martinez potentially leaving, even though Inter don't want him to go either. I'm sure they'd let him go over Lukaku. Anyway, there's all this talk about Inter Milan needing to finish the transfer window with a positive budget, and Romelu Lukaku could definitely help them with that, but of course, they just don't want to let him go. As for Chelsea, it would be rather interesting if they finally return and bring back Romelu Lukaku. Of course, he was the player they had as a youngster, and they sent him out on a few loans, and eventually they sold him to Everton. After he left Everton, he went to Manchester United in 2017, where they tried to bring him back then, but he said no. After that, he moved to Inter Milan, and now finally, it looks as though they want him to return for some unfinished business. Of course, there are loads of links at the moment that Erling Haaland is going to be moving to Stamford Bridge, but it's going to cost them probably even more money than it would cost Romelu Lukaku. The only other option is that Chelsea, which doesn't really seem like Chelsea style, wait until next summer for Erling Haaland, where his €75 million release clause comes into play, and pretty much every club with 75 million, which is most big clubs in Europe and a hell of a lot of English clubs who have so much money, can bid for the Norwegian Dortmund star. So maybe they'll turn their attentions to Lukaku this summer, but like I mentioned, they're going to have to shell out quite a bit of money. If he does sign though, the way that Thomas Tuchel plays and the players that they can get in and around Romelu Lukaku, I have a feeling he'll be absolutely amazing. In fact, he's already amazing. So put him in a great team like Chelsea, it'll be a fantastic signing. I'm just not quite sure this is going to happen this summer. But talking of transfers that may or may not happen, we've got one that looks like it may be happening, or certainly it's moved a little bit closer, and that's bad news for Tottenham fans and great news for Manchester City fans. Of course, it's Harry Kane leaving the club. Yesterday, he was reportedly due back at Hotspur Way for training for a load of corona testing before heading out to training today, but he didn't show up. It's not really Harry Kane's style to maybe force a move, but apparently he had a gentleman's agreement last summer with Daniel Levy that he'd stay one more year and then he could leave the club this summer. And now we're here. He wants to move. It didn't materialise before the Euros, and now that he's back, it looks as though he really is pushing for that move to Manchester City. The latest reports are that Tottenham want around £160 million for him, and Manchester City are only willing to spend 120. Of course, they've already got this massive £100 million outlay to Jack Grealish in the coming days as well, so it looks like it's going to be a rather busy summer for all the accountants at Manchester City, because that's quite a lot of money to deal with. Anyway, in the Harry Kane deal, there has been no official line from City, from Harry Kane's camp, or from Tottenham just yet about why he missed training. But if you look between the lines, Spurs have been spending quite a bit of money this summer. That's rather unusual for them. Maybe they're preparing for a lot of money to be coming in from, say, a big deal, selling one of their star players, Harry Kane. Already they've brought in Pierluigi Golini on a loan with an obligation to buy from Atalanta. They've brought in Brian Hill. They paid a bit of money and swapped Eric Lamela to Sevilla for the youngster. There's talk of Christian Romero coming in from Atalanta. That one looks like it could be done within the next few days or week or so. So with Spurs spending a bit of money, and they've also been linked with quite a few other players, it looks as though they're doing so because they're maybe relying on getting a bit of money in. It's not exactly Tottenham style, as we've seen in the last two transfer windows, to go spending willy-nilly without bringing any money in on the return. Having said that though, we're talking about big clubs selling some players. Newcastle are interested in both a Real Madrid and Juventus player. That's something we haven't heard since last summer, when there was that talk of a Newcastle takeover and them signing like Bale and Mbappe and whichever other crazy rumours the internet threw together. This summer though, they apparently are talking with Real and Juve, and it's for fringe players Mariano Diaz and Aaron Ramsey. Both of those players aren't having the biggest impact at their teams, especially in the case of Mariano Diaz. I think he scored 6 goals in the last 3 years since returning to Real. Not exactly a hot striker in form, but if he moves to Newcastle, gets regular game time and plays alongside other creative players, certainly like Alain Saint-Maximin, could actually see the best of the striker who, when he went to Lyon in that brief period in his Real Madrid career, he actually scored a hat full of goals. As with Aaron Ramsey, he's been linked with a return to the Premier League pretty much ever since he joined Juventus, and they found out that, much like his time at Arsenal, he can be great on his day, but he's just never fit enough consistently to be in the team. He was linked with a return to Arsenal as well as a move to North London rivals Tottenham. Can't see that one happening, but who knows? Maybe a move to Newcastle could be on the cards. On top of this, Steve Bruce is close to signing one player from Marseille in midfielder Boubacar Kamara for around £10 million. Next up then, and actually talking of Arsenal midfielders, Martin Odegaard, who was on loan at the club last season, could be returning to North London. That is only though if Real Madrid's demands are met. Now, he's returned to the club because yet again he's been promised a place in the first team. The same thing happened with Zinedine Zidane last season, and halfway through the year, Martin Odegaard found out that he had no place in Zinedine Zidane's plans, so he was farmed out on loan. And the same thing's happening this summer. Carlo Ancelotti's in, they've told him that he's going to be getting some first team minutes, but it still looks like the same midfield trio are going to be there, and Martin Odegaard's going to have to fight just to get some game time. It's not exactly what he wants at this point in his career, so a return to Arsenal could be on the cards, but if they want to bid anything of around 50 million, they're going to need to put in a buyback clause. This is very, very common with Spanish clubs, especially Real Madrid and Barcelona. Most of the players they send out, even on a permanent deal, there's always some sort of buyback clause inserted so they can get their hands on them again if they turn out to be an absolute superstar. That's the thing with Martin Odegaard. He needs to go out on loan. He's not going to play regularly now, but he could be good enough in the future to take over the position of Luka Modric in that Real Madrid lineup. As for Arsenal, I'm sure they'd welcome back such a brilliant creative player who really started to strut his stuff towards the end of last season. Finally then, we come to a quick round-up of the rest of the day's transfer news. And talking about Arsenal midfielders, Granit Xhaka is very close to signing a new deal with the club that will take him up to 2025. This is because he will not be moving to Roma, and because of this, Jose Mourinho has now turned his attention to Dortmund midfielder Thomas Delaney. Elsewhere, and Aston Villa had another bid rejected for Southampton midfielder James Ward-Prowse, but they are expected to go back in for the Saints captain. And lastly but not least, after a few stunning performances at the Tokyo Olympics, Wolves forward Rafa Mir is apparently on the shortlist of Barcelona and Atletico Madrid as a rather cheaper option to some of the big-name stars they've been linked with this summer. That's all from me for today. Check out everything else we've got going on, and I will see you guys next time.